Processed cheese singles. Think of these as a piece of yellow plastic that happens to taste like cheese. It is not actually made by aging milk, but by mixing milk proteins with salt and emulsifiers until it becomes a smooth, thick paste that can be stamped into perfect squares. When you put it on a burger, it doesn't melt like real cheese. It just turns into a glossy, liquid coating that looks almost radioactive symbols. The gross part is how it never changes. It stays the same texture, whether it is cold or hot, because it is designed to be stable on a shelf for months. It is basically a science project you can eat, a product that prioritizes a perfect look over actual taste. Chicken nuggets. This is where the chicken stops being an animal and becomes a slurry. To make these, companies take the leftover parts of the chicken, the bits of meat still stuck to the bone, and shove them through a high-pressure machine. This machine literally squeezes the meat and bone together, pushing it through a metal screen to create a pale, pink paste. This paste is then mixed with salt and binders to make it hold its shape, before being breaded and fried. It is the ultimate way to make sure no part of the chicken goes to waste, even the parts you would never recognize as food and never imagine it. Is less like a nugget and more like a piece of reconstituted chicken-flavored sponge. Supermarket hot dogs. These are essentially mystery meat tubes. To make them, manufacturers take all the trimmings, the skin, the fat, and the bits of meat that were too small for other products and grind them into a fine, smooth mush. This mush is then mixed with a huge amount of salt and nitrates to keep it from spoiling and to give it that weird, uniform pink color. Because everything is blended so thoroughly, there are no actual chunks of meat. Just a rubbery texture that bounces when you bite it. The most unsettling part is that they are designed to stay fresh for a ridiculously long time, meaning they are packed with chemicals that keep the meat from rotting, even if the meat itself is barely recognizable. Commercial donuts. These are basically sugar bombs made of chemical sponges. Most of the donuts you buy at a supermarket aren't made with fresh butter or eggs, but with stabilizers that keep them soft for weeks. The dough is designed to soak up as much oil as possible during frying, creating a heavy, greasy interior. Then they are covered in glazes made of corn syrup and artificial dyes to make them look neon bright and appealing. If you left a real donut out, it would go hard and stale in a day, but these stay soft because they are filled with preservatives that stop the air from drying them out. It is a trick of chemistry, making you believe you are eating a fresh treat when you are actually eating something that could survive at nuclear war winter. Fountain soda. Before it hits your cup, your soda starts as a thick, sticky sludge kept in large bags in the back of the store. This syrup is a hyper-concentrated mix of sugar and flavorings that is so thick it almost doesn't flow. The real grossness happens in the tubes that carry this syrup to the machine, because the lines are narrow and full of sugar. They are incredibly hard to clean and can become a breeding ground for slime and bacteria if the staff isn't perfect. When the machine mixes this syrup with carbonated water, you get a refreshing drink. But the journey from that sticky bag through a potentially dirty pipe and into your mouth is a bit unsettling. It is a massive delivery system for liquid sugar, hidden behind a shiny plastic machine. Potato chips. These are just thin slices of potato that have been soaked in industrial oil. The process is simple, but the result is a chemical cocktail. When potatoes are fried at extreme temperatures, a chemical called acrylamide forms, which is basically a byproduct of burning the starch. This is what gives them that golden color. But it is also what makes them a bit risky if you eat too many. Beyond the chemistry, they are engineered to be addictive. The perfect balance of salt and fat tricks your brain into thinking you are still hungry, even when your stomach is full. You aren't just eating a potato, you are eating a precisely calculated hit of sodium and grease designed to make you keep reaching into the bag. Breakfast cereals. These are essentially sugar-coated cardboard. The grain used to make them is processed so much that all the natural fiber and nutrients are stripped away, leaving behind a bland, tasteless base. To fix this, companies coat the cereal in a thick layer of sugar and spray it with artificial colors to make it look fun for kids. Because the actual food has no vitamins, they simply spray synthetic vitamins onto the cereal at the very end. It is like trying to make a piece of cardboard healthy by painting vitamins on the outside. It is a deceptive way to start the day. Selling a dessert as a breakfast meal, while the sugar spike leaves you crashing by 10 in the morning. Instant noodles. These are basically blocks of deep-fried flour and salt. Most people think they are just dried, but the noodles are actually flash-fried in oil to make them cook faster. Then, you add the flavor packet, which is essentially a concentrate of salt, MSG, and artificial seasonings. It is a salt bomb that tricks your taste buds into thinking it is a rich soup, when it is actually just industrial seasoning and processed starch. The gross part is the way it sits in your stomach, a heavy, oily mass that takes a long time to digest because it is so highly processed. Canned luncheon meat. This is a pink, gelatinous brick of mystery meat. To make this, manufacturers take various cuts of pork and poultry, grind them into a smooth paste, and mix them with a massive amount of salt and stabilizers. This allows the meat to be pressed into a can and stay stable for years without rotting. When you open the can, the meat has a rubbery, uniform texture that doesn't exist in nature, a result of the emulsion process. It is basically the canned version of a hot dog, but even more concentrated, a salty, pink slab of protein that is more about shelf life than actual nutrition. Commercial white bread. This is essentially a sugar sponge made from bleached flour. To make it, factories take the grain and strip away the bran and the germ, the parts that actually have nutrients, leaving behind a bland white powder. Then, they add emulsifiers to make it feel soft and chemicals like calcium propionate to stop mold from ever growing. That is the weird part. Real bread should go stale or moldy after a few days, but this stuff can sit in a plastic bag for weeks and still look perfectly fresh. It is not really food. It is an industrial product designed to be as cheap and as soft as possible, a chemical foam that tricks you into thinking it is a hearty loaf of bread.